Hi, I'm Jonah Comstock, Editor-in-Chief at PharmaForum. I'm here at the lobby of the Hotel Sparrow at JP Morgan in San Francisco. I'm joined by Ed Ahn and Tony Lee of Medipost. I'll let you guys kind of introduce yourselves a little bit and give your full titles and talk a little bit about what you do and what Medipost is all about.
When you start.
Okay, great. My name is Tony Lee. I'm the global president for Medipost Group of Companies. I'm also the co-CEO for a U.S. entity, Medipost Inc., based out of Boston, with my colleague and partner, Edward Ahn here. Medipost is a stem cell focused company, really specializing in fetal stem cells, specializing in umbilical cord blood and also cord tissue derived stem cells. We do cord blood banking, that is for the blood stem cells, potential use in the future, what's called hematopoietic stem cells, for fee-for-service private banking business model in Korea. As at the same time, we do therapeutic pipeline development using donated cord blood as a starting material, and then mesenchymal stem cells from those cord blood units for developing into therapeutic products, cell therapy products. And we have one commercial product called Cardistem for treatment of osteoarthritis, fully commercialized in Korea. And we are doing late phase 3 trials in Japan and also in the US. Thank you.
So my name is Ed Ahn. I'm currently the CEO of Medipost USA. My career has tracked the development, the evolution of regenerative medicine. So early on in my career, I've worked on a lot of different things, like encapsulated pancreatic islets to human tissue products. Most recently, delivery devices for viral vectors for macular degeneration, and now stem cells for osteoarthritis. A lot of my work has been related to early on development R&D, but most recently around M&A, financing, corporate development, and I've been brought on board to the Medipost to really bring the technology that's been successfully developed in Korea and to globalize that in the United States to really make Medipost a global company.
Yeah. So what I mean, you mentioned a couple of pipeline products. What's the sort of like the current strategic course of the company? What are you guys working on developing, and sort of how do you want, do you have any milestones coming up in the year? Where are you kind of placing your big bets?
So our big bet right now is with our lead product, Cardistem, which is a surgical treatment for knee osteoarthritis using our stem cell product. That product has had 10 years of commercial experience in the Korean market, and it's the first allogeneic stem cell product ever approved in the United States. I think 34,000 patients treated to date.
So far in Korea.
Right? Our most recent milestone is that we just enrolled our final Japanese patient in our phase 3 clinical trial just last, I think, November or December.
Yes, November.
And then we plan on starting our phase 3 clinical trial end of this year in the United States.
Yeah. So biggest milestones are we basically leveraging on over 10 years of commercial experience. We are the first allogenic MSC product approved by a regulatory agency in the world. That was in Korea 2012. So with almost 13 year experience, over 34,000 patient clinical commercial experience, we're really leveraging that to go into big markets initially, starting with Japan. As I mentioned, that we are anticipating to approval and launch in 2027 and 28 timing in Japan. And here in the United States, we're starting the phase 3 trial for full approval with the FDA end of this year. So those are the two big milestones coming up.
And if I could just add one thing, one of the other milestones that we've achieved is completely recruiting the senior management team for the US this last, I think, October. And one of the big draws for the team was the fact that we have so much clinical data, right? Which is very, very unusual for a cell and gene therapy company where everyone is talking about science and mechanism of action. But, when I talk to the people here, it's like, I have 10 years of clinical data, right? And when we launch our product, we will launch this cell therapy with one, two, three, four phase 3 clinical studies and 10 years of real world evidence in the United States. So that's unheard of in the field. And that gets people really, really excited.
Yeah, just to add on to that point is that in Korea right now we are actually conducting the real world evidence study. It's almost like a phase 4 study, really leveraging on those 34,000 plus patients who've received our treatment in the last 12 years. We're really calling up 1,000 patients from the market back who's been over 3 years since the treatment, and then really look at their prognosis and really what happened to them for the 5th and 10th year after they received the treatment, and how they have to, whether they had to go and seek other treatments along the way. So really have broadened our understanding about how our therapy can help them, the patients, in the long term. So we will get that real world evidence data from Korea, which we'll leverage against in markets like US and also in Japan.
Talk to me a little bit about the supply chain when you're dealing with stem cell derived therapies. You mentioned that you did cord blood banking, and so some of the cells come from there. But how do you create sort of like a sustainable business where you get those stem cells in the first place and then you turn them into this allogeneic product? How does that all work out?
Yeah, just quickly. So, because we use cord blood as a starting material to source our stem cells allogenically, so we really rely on the donation from the parents after they give birth. Mothers give their birth to the babies, and most of those babies' cord tissue or cord blood are discarded as medical waste. So in Korea and also in the United States, we seek donors to donate those material to us, which we use for stem cell as a source material for the stem cells. And then maybe you can add on about our manufacturing strategy in Canada.
So, so I think the supply chain in Korea and the United States a little different. I think historically the Medipost in Korea started off as a cord blood bank, and from that they started off into being experts in stem cell science and into cell therapy. But the heart of it was we're a cord blood bank, and then they had this sales force that sold cord blood banking services. So when a family didn't want to have cord blood banking services, they would say, "Do you mind donating your cord blood for cell therapy services?" So that's how they would develop their supply chain for cord blood to develop a supply chain for cell therapy in Korea. So we've had to develop a different supply chain in the United States. Fortunately, in the United States, cord blood banking and obtaining cord blood for cell therapy has actually matured since uh, Medipost started their own cord blood banking. When did you start? 2000. So we started doing this, maybe 2 years ago, formally for phase 3. So that supply chain is very, very well established. So we've been contacting the major cord blood banks in the United States in partnership as a supply, and then sending them to our CDMO partner, Omnia Bio, to process and bringing them into the United States.
So as we look ahead at the year to come, which we do at JP Morgan, what do you guys see as some of the major kind of trends and happening in the cell therapy space, and what are you looking at in terms of like R&D breakthroughs or like the regulatory frameworks, the infrastructure? Yeah, talk to me about kind of what you're hearing and what you're looking forward to.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think it's very encouraging to see the more and more cell and gene therapy products getting approvals, especially by the FDA. And with respect to the cell therapy, especially for large indications such as degenerative diseases like osteoarthritis that we are targeting, in addition to many rare diseases. So more on the general indication, it's the more emphasis is coming on for the real world evidence. So beyond the designed clinical studies, there are more emphasis and more acceptance by you really utilizing and understanding and acknowledging the real world evidence data. So the real data coming from the market. So from our perspective, as we mentioned earlier, the 34,000 plus patient experience from Korea over the last 12 years is going to be really, really beneficial for us to really prove those to the regulatory agencies, but also to the payers and to the patients, giving them more confidence to the patients and doctors. And I think that puts us in a very unique situation, but it's very encouraging to see more products getting approved and the more and more emphasis on the real evidence is being accepted and being expected, in my view.
So I really see two things. One is like control strategy. So as analytical equipment gets better and better and better, and you're able to identify more variants in the cell population, you're able to refine what is actually the drug product. So, and that will actually entail the manufacturers to refine the product a bit more, and the other part of it would be how you control that and how you control all that information. And AI and machine learning, I think, will play a bigger role in controlling all of that over the next 24 months, 12 to 24 months, as people begin to implement a lot of those new control strategies, especially as it relates to, I think, you know, what we see in autologous CAR T therapies as well, just because the investment for CAR T is so expensive. You want to make sure that for that single patient that it will work. So you really want to identify that for that patient, what I know it's going to cost a lot. I want to make sure that it works. So putting in all the upfront work to characterize a patient, to characterize a process, to make sure the process matches the patient, I think we'll see a lot of innovation in that area.
I know one of the kind of open questions in cell therapy is like, what's going to win out, autologous, allogeneic, or now even in vivo? You guys are positioned with a pretty big bet on allogeneic. You've got a lot of advantages there that you've kind of laid out in terms of your history and your access to the supply. But how do you think that that's going to evolve over the next few years? Do you think one is going to win out, or do you think it's going to kind of be a multifaceted ecosystem?
I think it'll be multifaceted depending upon indication and the required mechanism of action that is needed to address the basic disease. Something like degenerative diseases, like what we're really focused in on. So for Medipost, we really are focused on age-related degenerative diseases. So that doesn't necessarily lend itself to like a CAR T program, whereas that's much more surgical and much more precise in its targeting. And for what we need to do, we have to have kind of greater utility and have more of multiple mechanisms of action. Tony touched upon it earlier on, where we need to have an anti-inflammatory effect, anti-catabolic effect, pro-anabolic effect. So those are important for something that is designed to address age-related maladies and degenerative diseases. But other things that are monogenetic, could be addressed with viral vectors or some sort of specific RNA things, especially if they're short-term expression. But again, these are all very, very, very tailored. But it's great to have all these synthetic biology type of approaches. But again, we have to make sure that it fits the type of disease or issue that we have.
Yeah, but overall, in generally speaking, about autologous versus allogeneic, I mean, there are clear benefits of having allogeneic off the shelf, so to speak, that can be ready when you need it. And obviously, in terms of the cost, both in the manufacturing side and also the cost for the patients, because if you do an autologous therapy, although there are some specific targets that will suit that today, but in general scale of terms, that if you do a two-step approach as a patient, that's going to be obviously burdensome, and it's going to cost time and money to manufacture the product just for your own use. Versus if you can do this as an allogenic, off the shelf, ready to go, and you can basically use it when you need it. And also from the manufacturing perspective, because of the scale, you can actually enjoy the benefit of manufacturing costs going down with more in production. So I think eventually overall the direction for cell therapy will have to be allogenic, just to meet those two elements, particularly the cost of goods.
Well, thank you both so much for chatting with me. Really interesting to hear about what you do. Any final thoughts in terms of, I guess trends and this conference? What's the mood been like? What do you think this coming year is going to be like for biotech more broadly?
I think that there is a clear notion that regulatory agencies, especially FDA, is really, really moving towards approving and having a positive regulatory impact on the cells and gene therapy modalities in general. So that is very, very encouraging. And there are obviously big pharma players now taking a role in the cell and gene therapy development. A lot of investment interest as well. I think I see they're gaining momentum and more every year. And this year is obviously taking the same pattern. So that is very encouraging. And from our perspective, really leveraging our experience and commercial and clinical experience from Korea and from Asia generally, and having moving that across the United States gets us very excited in the backdrop of this regulatory and also investment scene.
No, but it does seem like, from what I've been hearing so far, that the expectation is the IPO markets may be opening up a bit more than last year, that there may be double the number of IPOs this year than last year, which is a positive sign. And then I'm hoping and praying that interest rates will drop as well. The business that we're in is very interest rate sensitive. So the lower the interest rates are, the more research we'll see as well.
Well, thank you both so much. I hope you have a great show, and good luck in all your meetings and everything.
Well, thank you very much for making the time.